Good day, y'all. This is Jeff Whitney at the Dog Trot. I'm trying to bring this to not a finalization, but the first part of many parts of life at the Dog Trot. And today we're going to be presenting Gumbo, a very deep-rooted tradition here in the South. And I have Chef Jewel, who will be orchestrating the gumbo. So, with this said, please enjoy yourself.
Chef Jewel here, coming to you live at the Dog Trot. Finally, we get in the kitchen so y'all can see me do my magic, let me cook, and do a recipe for y'all. I'm gonna do a traditional seafood gumbo that I come up learning from all of my folks, my mother especially, and my stepfather who loves seafood, always had seafood going because we were blessed to be able to have these beautiful Gulf of Mexico shrimp, you know? So gumbo was always easy for us to do, and it was always in our kitchens. And I've got many years of this in my blood, but I want to show y'all a couple steps on how I make my gumbo bring out the best flavors I can. As you can see, these beautiful shrimp have heads on, shells, and everything. I want to save that. Of course, all you real cooks know you got to cook with a stock. You can't cook with what? Just water. So all these shrimp paws, heads, it's all going to be cooked down real slow and concentrated with herbs and bay leaves and whatever else I can throw in there for my vegetable trimmings to make a wonderful stock. My seafood gumbo is a 2-day process because I don't think gumbo can be cooked in one day. And then the next day it's even better. So my first day is to prep everything. Peel my shrimp, get my stock made, and slows things down. You can't rush gumbo. It's a slow process, and that's how I'm gonna keep it. So on my next little process of night one, I'm gonna show y'all the slow process of making the key to a gumbo. It's called the roux, as everyone knows. It's a process of slowly toasting flour in oil and in the thickest cast iron pot you can get. Key. That is the key to a good roux. I'm going to show you all that next. Stay tuned to Southern Eats. Hello, fellow Southerners. Chef Jewel here, back in the kitchen at the Dog Trot. This is the second step to what I started showing y'all last night on my preparations for seafood gumbo. As I showed you last night, I took those beautiful shrimp, peeled them down, and ended up with a stock. To that stock, I'm going to add just some broken in half beautiful gumbo crabs to that stock and my Miraquai vegetables to get that rolling and get those layers of flavors to start building. But on this little segment here, I've told y'all about the roux, which is the key to a good gumbo. The roux serves a couple different purposes. The way I see it is a thickening agent, and it also gives that nuttiness roasted flavor of a good gumbo. My technique takes me an hour, right at an hour to do, because I'm slowly doing this process not to burn the grease, not to get the fire too hot, but to slowly toast it to bring out the nuttiness of the flour. Now, I'm not going to put y'all through an hour watching me stir this roux, but as the roux gets to the dark brown that I want it, I'm going to cut the fire completely off, and I have a whole onion diced up. I'll throw in there on that hot mixture of roux, of flour, and oil, and those onions are going to start weeping and sizzling down and releasing their flavors into that toasted flour that I just brought to life with the flavor of that onion. That settles down, cools off, and the oils will come to the top. I get rid of the oil, and I got nothing but beautiful roux. That'll slowly be added into my crabs, my stock, and I'll start another layer of flavor. My roux starts getting in, thickening it up, and making what we call the gravy of the gumbo. So stay tuned for us here at the Dog Trot, and we'll be coming to you to make this pot with something good on Southern Eats. Gumbo at the Dog Trot. Okay, I just want to show y'all some ratios of the oil to flour mixture and the consistency of how you want the thickness of this flour. It's going to start out as a paste almost, and through the end of the process it'll thin out. Now, this size pot of gumbo, you have to determine on how much you're cooking, on how much roux you make. The bigger the pot, of course, the more roux. This pot, I started with a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, and I really don't measure my flour. I just slowly add it into this heated oil in this cast iron pot until it gets to the consistency that I like to work with, because I'm going to be standing right here over it stirring this constantly. So if I start thin, it's going to get thinner. So just pay attention and watch as I slowly add this flour to this hot grease. Stop, and work that in. And even if you make more roux than you really want, you can put it up, save it in a jar, use it for your next meal. A roux doesn't have to be used right away. This is a little much roux, but it will be used here in this kitchen. See how it's thickening up, pasting up? It's about to the consistency where I like it. It's starting to bubble a little bit. Once I get this all blended in, and just a touch more, because like I said, it's going to thin out. See how it's bubbling? I've got it all blended in. I want to come back and cut this flame way down. Not low, but not medium. Just right in the range in between there. Because the pan's already hot. Now I just want to maintain that heat. And start working this. Scraping the bottom releases the brown tidbits. And that's what starts turning this from this white, off-white, to slowly start turning brown. When this is completely brown the way I like it, I'll add those onions to this, set it aside, and forget about it for a few hours. While my gumbo's, my crab will be boiling in my stock, getting those flavors layered. I'll add my mirepoix vegetables to that, and I'll add some crab meat, and I got all the other goodies to go in it before the end of this gumbo session is over. Chef Jewel at the Dog Trot. Stay tuned to Southern Eats. Wooden spoon works best too. Scrape that bottom and get them brown tidbits to coming up, and by the time you scrape one side, the other side will be ready to throw back over. If this smokes, the flour's bitter. You never want to get it overheated, because it will burn the flour, burn the oil, and then you got bitterness. Don't want bitterness. A lot of people, there's a big difference in the two. The flavor of a toasted flour and the flavor of burnt flour. There's a big difference. So be careful with your heat when you're making this roux. Stay with it. You can't walk away from it. When you commit to this roux, you have to stay with it. And this was always my job coming up as a kid. Because my mama had so much other going on, she'd say, here, stand on this chair and stir the roux. That was big time for me. So I've messed this up a few times, so it's not, this didn't come to me overnight. This is like I said, slowing things down. It's a slow process. I got those beautiful little gumbo crabs boiling down in that stock, so they start releasing their meat and their flavors. My next step for this is going to be sauteing down all my mirepoix vegetables, my herbs, bay leaves, thyme, basil, and rosemary. After I get those vegetables in there, let that roll for a while and get rolling. By that time, this roux will be settled down, and I can show y'all the final process on my roux. As you can see, it's already turning colors because I've been right here with it. It's starting to turn a beautiful brown, getting towards brown. So another 30 minutes, and this roux will be ready. Low fire. Scraping that bottom. About 30 minutes into this roux. I've been standing here. It's a labor of love. And this is the brown that it's to so far. Not quite where I want it. So another 10 or 15 minutes, which puts me at almost 45 minutes to make this roux. I'm going to get it to a richer brown and shut that fire off and throw them onions to it. When I get to the final color, I'll show you the final steps to making a good roux. Okay, folks, I've got this flour to the beautiful brown that I was looking for. Slow process, but it was worth it. What I'm going to do now is just go ahead and cut the fire off of that. That's one whole onion. It's already sizzling. Now it's going to thicken this mixture up when that water starts weeping from them onions. Then all that in, they sizzling. They already starting to caramelize and release their flavors into that flour that I just toasted. Into that, fresh pepper. And some wonderful Himalayan pink salt. And that's all it needs. That roux is done, except for setting it aside. Let that cool right there. The onions are going to make the oils release and float to the top, and I'll be able to pour them oils off, which will leave me with just beautiful roux. Try to get rid of all the oil that I can. And that's going to be our thickener and our base for the gumbo. As everybody knows, the roux is the key. And that is the way I come up learning to do roux properly by a couple different people, and a few of my own tricks that I added to this. If you don't get it right the first time, it's not hard. Just slow things down and take your time with your roux, and you'll end up with a beautiful roux. When I come back, we're going to start adding to this gumbo pot and really making things get smelling real good around here at the Dog Trot Kitchen. Chef Jewel here. We're about to add another layer of flavors to this gumbo and bring it up to another layer of flavors. What I got in my cast iron skillet is olive oil and butter. I'm going to saute my mirepoix vegetables. That's 3 onions, 2 bell pepper, about a quarter a stalk of celery. And I like cooking with a lot of onions in my gumbo. I also had onions in that roux that are going to go in this too. So get those started wilting down real good. Salt and pepper to that. What I have here is my herbs, some bay leaf, got some fresh rosemary, thyme, basil, and about 100 cloves of garlic. All this is going to come together and saute down, and this layer of flavor is going to be added to that stock and my crabs to start forming the second phase of the gumbo, which is bringing it all together. The final step as far as making the gumbo come true is when I add this roux to this mixture. This won't take long, just to caramelize them down a little bit and add another layer of flavor to them. As I bring this back up to heat and get it boiling and get all this going good, and that'll simmer for about half an hour. Then I can slowly start adding my roux to it, and after that point I can start adding my seafood at proper times. When we say we're layering the flavors of this gumbo, everything has to be done at a certain time. Can't just throw everything in this pot and expect it to happen. Just keep it slow. Don't rush this process. You rush it, you miss something, you mess something up, it doesn't turn out right. So my final preparation will be after I get all this incorporated, and I'll show y'all how I incorporate the seafood to this. I got one aspect of seafood in it as a crab, but I still have shrimp and oysters that are going to go in it. And of course, another vegetable, okra. Gotta have okra in your gumbo. Stay tuned to Southern Eats here at Life at the Dog Trot. Chef Jewel here back at the kitchen in the Dog Trot. We fixed to add another layer of flavor to this gumbo. I've had my stock boiling with my crabs and all my mirepoix vegetables. Been letting that marry for about an hour and a half now. As y'all seen in my last little segment where I made this beautiful roux, this is fixed to add to that to bring what I call the marrying of the stock and the roux to make the gravy of the gumbo. Start whipping that in. And I know I made a lot, but I'm gonna put about half of that and see where that gets me. In about 10 minutes or so, if it ain't thick or the consistency I want, I'll add me a scoop or more and blend that in. Now this is where the simmering process kicks in, because once you add this flour and this thickener, you have to cut your fire way back, or you risk sticking and burning your gumbo. I brought it up to a good boil, so when I add this roux to it, that boiling water, that hot water starts breaking it down and letting it release and do its things to make the gravy. That is crucial for gumbo. All of that time and effort that I put into making that roux right there is going to pay off in the end. So I'm going to let this simmer now for about another hour, hour and a half. And then I'll have all my seafood, the rest of my seafood, and the rest of the ingredients is going to top this pot of gumbo off. We've had a good day here at the Dog Trot. We started this last night, and it's just been a joy to get it to this part and to pass it on to you. And one more thing is I'm preparing is traditional with good seafood gumbo down south. It's a good potato salad. These are the makings of a potato salad. I use Yukon Gold potatoes, eggs, celery, onions, and relish and mayonnaise. However you like to make your potato salad, but this is my version of a potato salad I'm doing that's going to go with this gumbo. And for that right now, we're just going to let this simmer and let everything just stay simple. As simple as it can be. Southern Eats at the Dog Trot. See, if I make this too thick with too much roux, I'll have to add more stock, and I used up my stock that I made. So if I control how thick I make it with the roux, I don't have to add no more liquid to this. This pot's about halfway full. Everything that I put into it starting to marry and come together now. When I get this all stirred in, I got some lump crab meat that I'm gonna add to it, on top of the crabs that I already had in it. That crab meat can go ahead and start dispersing through the gravy that the roux just made. And with that, we'll come back and I'll have the final preparation to show y'all the end of this gumbo. Okay, folks, this is Chef Jewel back in the kitchen at the Dog Trot. We're at the final stage of this process of gumbo that I brought y'all through. And this is where I really get excited, because it's where it all comes together. And this is the last layer of flavors that we're adding to this pot that we took all the time to prepare everything. My roux has been in here, simmering down for about an hour, thickening up, doing its thing. The last three ingredients that I put are ingredients that I don't want to cook apart. I just want them to cook, plump up, and absorb these flavors. And they're adding their own flavors at the same time. Now, what would gumbo be without about 5 pounds of beautiful peeled Gulf shrimp? All right. Yeah, that slowed the cooking down. It stopped it, which that's okay, because I don't want this to come to back to an immediate boil. Because these three ingredients that I fixed to put in here to finalize it is going to bring my temperature, but it'll rise back up. Okay? And for my number one seafood that makes gumbo what it is some of Louisiana's Gulf Coast oysters. This is the liqueur and the liquor that comes off of these oysters adds a flavor that you just can't compare. That's stirring in. I can't tilt this pot, but let me tell you, it's full. It's full. That's gonna start marrying. Everything's gonna come together what I just put in there. And then the final vegetable is debatable with some people. I love okra in my gumbo. and that's the way I'm gonna keep doing it. So this is about a pound of fresh cut okra, raw. And as I say, this is all not, some people would like to cook their okra down and make it disappear or whatever just for the flavor. But I'd like to leave it a little firm. So everything that I have in here now will come back up to a slight boil, and I'll cut it back. I'll leave the lid off because I want it to continue to reduce for another hour or so. And my final step is just before serving, I have gumbo filet, and I'll show y'all that because we're going to show y'all plating this up along with this potato salad that I made. And we'll have rice and some roasted garlic bread to go with this gumbo and all the other beautiful things we cooked in this kitchen today. So stay tuned for our final clip on this gumbo edition at Life at the Dog Trot and Southern Eats. Making that gravy. Okay, Chef Jewel here, back at the Live at the Dog Trot with Southern Eats. We have our friend Mr. Green Jeans, who is our gardener. He's part of this Southern Eats episode we're doing. In-house taste tester. He is an approver of all meals that come out of the Dog Trot. And he's here this afternoon as we take these final two steps and make this gumbo all come together, and we're at the point where we're fixing to dish it up and get to sit down and enjoy these hours that I put into making this, something that's dear to my heart. This gumbo this is my way of doing it, and it's the best way I know to do it. I got two more ingredients I want to add to it that finalizes the end of it to me, and one of those is with a gumbo filet. Jeff, you can get this at your local Piggly Wiggly or wherever. It's just gumbo filet. Some people gumbo file, however you pronounce it.
Tell them what it is.
This is ground sassafras leaves that the older folks and the Indians used to use for soup thickeners.
The Indians
and the taste of it enhances this gumbo to another layer. Is what we've been building. Now we're at that final moment that these two ingredients are gonna cap off this dish that we made, and sit down and enjoy it. And with your approval, I hope that you can tell the rest of these people how good it is.
Ooh,
So
testify.
with that,
witness.
let's finish this up. Now on this gumbo filet, you just want to dust the top of it. You've seen how I measure. I measure by sight, by taste, and by smell. So I'm just dusting the top of it with that gumbo filet. Just like that. And these fresh green onions, if you don't like your onions a little firm or whatever, you can put them in sooner. But the green onions are the last I put in it, on top of all the other onions that were in it. We did good. We put plenty of shrimp, plenty of crab, pint of oysters in there.
Yeah.
This is about everything I know to do to it to get it to this point. With that, I'm going to pull some of this roasted garlic bread out of the oven and plate some of this up for y'all. The way I like to do it is with potato salad.
That's the way the Cajuns do it.
The way the Cajuns eat their gumbo.
They would never eat gumbo without potato salad. You know that?
Like I said, tradition is potato salad with your gumbo. The way I like to plate mine up. A little bit of crab in there. And plenty of shrimp. Just try to get my spoon full of shrimp.
Jeff, you ever seen the
Little
Cajuns?
gravy.
You ever seen the Cajuns put the potato salad on top of the gumbo in the bowl? You know?
Jeff, this is a southern thing here that we like to do with our potato salad. I'm probably gonna need 2 of them. Here at Southern Eats, this is how we keep it simple, slow things down, and cook from the heart. Chef Jewel at Life at the Dog Trot, thanking you for staying tuned with us. Welcome Mr. Green Jeans to our kitchen.
Okay.
I'm gonna eat.
Me too.
Well, I got some more plates. We eat that. Ain't no problem. Give it some more. I need to tray for my crab shell. Here you go.
That's what I'm.
This is Jeff Whitney coming back to you. I hope you enjoyed that little film that we've just done. This is just one of many, and we look forward to collecting information and data and stuff like that from the old world and sharing it with you here at the Dog Trot, Life at the Dog Trot. Now, today's episode was with Chef Jewel, and the topic, as you know, was gumbo, and it's too bad you couldn't taste it, but boy, just the words of it, the way he explains it, I could taste it, and even though I was there, I wasn't ready. Today we're doing the second round of gumbo, which it's always good on the second day. So I look forward to your comments, and I thank you very much, and I want to give a special hello and thank you for the guys down at the Piggly Wiggly. They've been a great help to us, and we love shopping there. So if you listeners are anywhere near a Piggly Wiggly, just consider it service. It's much needed in our world now, is just a friendly service. Anyways, enough of me preaching. Got to get back to the grindstone and work on our next episode, which I believe I heard from the chef that he's going to be doing a series of appetizers with artichokes. One of my favorite. So stay tuned and stay out of trouble. This is Jeff Whitney at the Dog Trot, bringing you life at the Dog Trot. And now bringing you Chef Jewel with Southern Eats. Y'all come back now. Thank you.